Okay, so we are officially recorded, or we are starting our recording. So hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Samira, and I'm your MCVP OGT for ISAC United States. A little background about me. I was the former LCP for ISAC in Miami. I've been in ISAC since 2013. And yeah, about me right now. If you have more questions about me, feel free to message me. I'm just going to go straight into it because that's my style. So I'm going to give you guys a screen share. If at any point I'm talking too fast, that's the main thing. Just like unmute yourself and tell me to talk slower because I tend to talk really fast, especially when it's like something I'm very passionate about. So just tell me to talk slower. And if you have any questions, just ask throughout the presentation. You don't have to wait till the end because if we're already on the topic, then just ask me. Okay, so I'm going to do a screen share real quick. Momentico. All right, so can everyone see my screen? Yes? Eric, I'm gonna have you be like my voice. Is that okay?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so all right, so welcome to the consultancy space. Woohoo, exciting. Your lives are gonna be changed. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so basically the agenda for today, I'm going to give you guys a brief history of the product and the areas. I'm going to talk to you guys about the current state of the product, what the goals are that we've had set as an MC, the strategy that we have as an MC, and the key challenges in the product. And then we're going to have an open Q&A space where you guys can ask me anything that you guys want about GE.GT. One thing about this amazing product is since that I am the head of two products, I have to basically go over the same thing twice. So what I'm first going to do with you guys is I'm going to go over all of global talent with this agenda, and then I'm going to go over all of global entrepreneur with just this agenda so that you guys can see both sides of the coin. But that's basically how this this flow is going to work with us. Hold on, I have to sneeze. Okay. So we're going to start with global talents. Yay, global talent, amazing. So for global talent over the years, I'm going to give you guys a second to take a look at this graph. I'm going to talk you guys through it a little bit. But basically what this graph is showing is the amount of realizations that have happened since 2009 in OGT. So as you guys can see, this last bar on the far right is MC Flywheels, which has gone very down compared to the previous years. And there's a lot of not attributes, but there's a lot of things that go into this decrease. The one thing is the OD model split. For those of you guys that are unaware, currently right now in ISAC US, every LC is required to run OGV. And with that being said, a lot of LCs were no longer able to run GT and GE. And I'm going to go over that later, but that's a contributing factor to that. And the second thing that we have is the GE.GT split. So as you guys know, during MC Rise's term, which is the year before Flywheel, 2015 to 2016, GE and GT numerical numbers were the same, and it was during Flywheel's turn that they started splitting up. So you're going to see during the GE's numbers that the numbers have increased, and that's because of the split. So that's a big contributing factor to why MC Flywheel had relatively low numbers. But this is basically how the MC numbers have been looking for the past few years. So if you're looking to apply to be on the MC, my suggestion to you would be just like talking about like how you guys can ensure, or what you would do to ensure that this number increases as the years go on, even though we've had the GE.GT split. Yes, moving forward. So for outgoing global talent, if we're going to be looking at the different terms, so MC Rise's terms was the year 2015 to 2016. And if we're looking at how the LCs, or how it was done on a local level, the number of LCs that were running OGE and OGT were 29. This is back when we did not have a focus OD model, which means we did not have any LCs focusing on a specific product. All LCs were just running whatever product they wanted to run. The number of members we had was 130. The number of LCs that were doing above 10 approvals was only 3, and the number of LCs doing above 10 realizations was only 2. So we did not have a lot of LCs that were contributing a lot to the product, as you can see, since only about 5 of them were doing like very minimum numbers for the product. But this is what happened during MC Rise's term. if you're looking at flywheels term with how the LCs were doing, so this is like I said before, when the OD model came in, where LCs were required to focus on a specific product. So the number of LCs that were running the product was 10. So if you see compared to MC Rise's turn, we had 29. Compared to MC Flywheel's turn, we only had 10 LCs running the product. That's more than half, or more than less than half the LCs that were running it. And the number of members that were running the product was 68 in comparison to MC Rise's turn, which was 130. So as you can see, there's been a very big decrease in the amount of manpower that we have in running the product. So that has hindered, I guess, not hindered, but it's like a challenge that we have with running the product. One thing that is interesting to see, that even though we have had a decrease in the products, if you're seeing the amount of LCs that grew in OGT during MC Rise's term was 9, the number of LCs that grew in OGT and during MC Flywheel's term was 7. So even though we did have a decrease in LCs, we had more LCs that were like growing, I guess, compared to the previous year, because we had more LCs running it during MC Rise's term. So so that's what this is looking like. If we're looking at the conversion rates compared to 2015 and 2016, so the open to applicant conversion rate was 6.8%, which is blah. Applied to accepted conversion rate is 24%. Accepted to approved was 82%. Approved to realize was 92%. The processing time, it takes about 13 days, and approval processing time takes about 23 days. So this was during MC Rise's term. If we're looking at the following year, there has been an increase in the amount of open to applied conversion rate. During MC Rise's term, it was 6.8, and during MC Flywheel's term, it was 9.1. However, there was a decrease in applied to accepted conversion rate. If you're seeing in MC Rise's term, it was 24%. However, in MC Flywheel's term, it was 15.4%. There was also a decrease in accepted to approval conversion rate compared to MC Rise's term. So if you're seeing in MC Rise's term, they had about 82% and we had 64%. So this is relatively around the same, if not so worse, this year currently right now. So my suggestion to you when you are working on your application is, what strategies would you have in place to ensure that you have a higher conversion rate, especially when it comes to open to applied, even more so when it comes to processing times. As you can see, for the acceptance processing time, it takes about 23 days. And the approval processing time, it takes about 35 days for someone to get approved. So this is definitely something that in your application as a recommendation, I would tackle or address to ensure that we increase this a lot more. But yes, do you guys have any questions? No? Okay, I'm gonna move forward. Okay, so if we're looking at subproduct focus, so this is a graph that is based off of the amount of approvals that we've had in the past year. So as you can see, the colors are kind of deceiving now that I'm looking at it. The 45% is teaching, so 45% of our EPs were approved to teaching opportunities. The second highest was business, so 22% of our EPs were approved to business opportunities. If we're looking at other, it's 14%, marketing was 10%, and IT was 8%. This is something that can definitely change in the upcoming year, mainly because a lot of these were also reverse matches. If you have a question as to what that is, feel free to message me and I'll expand on that further. But these also are a little bit deceiving because it just shows like what the reverse matches had. But at the same time, the teaching opportunities that we had, a lot of those came from Teach China, which was a huge partner that we had in the past. So if you're looking into which subproducts to focus on, I would definitely recommend, well, I can't tell you what to write. Never mind. I'm going to wave. Going on, I can't tell you what to do. Okay, next thing. So if we're going to region interest, 49% of our EPs were approved to the region of Asia Pacific, which is AP. And then second highest, 23% came from Europe and 21% came from the Americas and 6% went to MEA. So this is basically where our EPs are interested in going to. So when it comes to entity partners, I would look into this also. When it comes to AP, majority of our EPs were matched, like I said before, to China, mainly because they have this really big project with teaching in China. So that's where those numbers came from. The next thing when it comes to timeline, so when it comes to GT, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. Like GT is very different in comparison to the other products because our timeline is very like flowing, like it goes throughout, and like throughout like maybe 1 month we'll have like a really high peak and the rest of the month we're like relatively stagnant. So like for example, like between like January till I think like yeah, from January till May, we'll have like over 100 applicants. And then like June, July, and August, you might have like 80 or 90. So it's still like a very high number, but that's essentially the peak is from February till May. The acceptance peak is from March till May. Approval peak is from February till May, and realization peak, and this is based off of last year or 2017 from January till August. The realization peak was in June, mainly because if we're looking at the numbers in April, there was about 3 realizations. In June, there was, in April, there was 3 realizations. In May, there was 7 realizations. And in June, there was 61 realizations. And then if you go back to July, it's back to 5 realizations. So this is also like, it's very, I don't know how to explain it. It's just, it waves throughout the semester. And then if we're looking at finished peak, for example, like in May, we had about 5 realizations. In June, we had about 9. In July, we had about 13. And if you're looking at August, we had about 75 VPs that finished their experience. So this is also something to look into when it comes to the GT timeline. When it comes to MC goals, give me a second, sorry. When it comes to MC goals, so the MC goal for GE is 100, and so far we've had 24, which is very small. However, we're projected to increase a lot this semester. When it comes to like what we're going to be doing for as an MC, like what we're focusing on, we're working on specific target marketing for LCs. What this means is that in comparison to the previous years where we would have an EYP focus, which is an entity partner focus, for this year what we're focusing on is having a subproduct focus. As you guys know, or as in case you are unaware, we're having like a very low supply and opportunities for GT. And what we're noticing is that we are able to find like subproduct focuses around different areas. So this is something that we're focusing on with the LCs, that if an LC wants to focus on business or teaching, then we can try and find in the global network like what opportunities are available to fit that subproducts. The next thing that we're going to be focusing on as an MC is career fairs. So this is us, like me, just downscaling it to the LCs with like career fairs that are happening like around their areas, not just necessarily at their universities. Some career fairs do cost money, so it would be an investment. But if you think about it, on average, let's say, for example, a career fair might cost like $90. However, if you get at least one match out of that career fair, that's $700 that your LC is getting. So it's an investment that comes back to you. But career fairs are happening all over the country, and it's helpful because you're going specifically to a market, to students that are actually looking for opportunities abroad, not abroad, but they're looking for opportunities to like further develop themselves. But it's also looking into students, but it's also looking into students that aren't even necessarily like on campus, because at least at my university, for example, even if you're an alumni, you can still come to career fairs 2 years after you've graduated. So it's also like tackling the students that are no longer on campus. The next thing that we have is Handshake. So Handshake is a not an organization, but it's like, I guess we could call it a portal that I have as an MC that Alex started during her term when she was an MCVP in 2015. Where basically we're able to post any opportunities that we want on job posting sites around the country, and then students are able to apply on that site. So it's a really helpful site. This is something that I'm starting with my NST to see like how successful it's been going. We've had 1 approval so far with this strategy, so we're trying to see like as time goes on, like which opportunities are more like to the EPs and like which ones we should be focusing on at specific universities. So that's what's we're going on with that. And then IXP is something that Ola, who is our MCVP TM, is currently working on. We're working on an IXP campaign to help send alumni and seniors on exchange that are part of ISEC. Again, like I said, subproduct focus before. So currently right now, the LCs that are running Global Talent for this upcoming semester is Atlanta, Miami, Michigan, New York City, and San Diego. So if you guys want to talk to them, feel free to do so. But these are the LCs that will be running OGT in the upcoming year. So yeah, does anybody have any questions for OGT? Yeah, I got questions. No? Okay, I'm going on to the next one. Okay, so I'm gonna get water. All right, so now we're going to Global Entrepreneur. So if we're looking at global entrepreneur over the years, so like I said before in GT, there was a split between GE and GT back in 2015. So this is during MC Rise's term, which is why that number is so small, because it was still in the process. I think it was half the year through where we started like transferring the numbers into GE, and we no longer counted them as GTs. And during MC Flywheel's term, there was an increase that happened during that term. And so far in MC Apollo, we've had 4 acceptances so far, and I think we have, 4 approvals so far, and I think we have 6 acceptances in pipeline. So we are projected, or I'm projecting that we will grow this upcoming year in GE, which is really exciting. But this is basically what's been happening over the years with GE. Hold on, I have to sneeze again. No, I don't. Okay, so if we're looking again at Outgoing Global Entrepreneur during MC Rise's term, which is 2015 and 2016, this is basically the same thing that I told you guys about GT, where the number of LCs that are running OGT were basically the same amount of LCs that were like running like all the products. So back then we had 29 LCs running GE.GT, and this is also because we didn't have a split back then. And the reason why we don't have LCs doing approvals, or number of LCs above 10 approvals or above 10 realizations, is because we didn't have the split back then. So that's also something that, like, when it comes to creating strategies for GE, it's like a little bit more difficult in comparison to GT or GV, because we don't necessarily have data to back up the decisions that we're making. So you have to be very innovative when it comes to strategies that you want to do for the product. When it comes to MC Flywheel, if we're looking back at this again, this was also during the time when an LC, if they were running GE or GT, they were running both GE and GT at the same time as a VP. And now currently we have split it where you can only have one VP OGE and a VP OGT. So you can't be having a VP that is running both of the products. So this is, for MC Flywheel's term, they had the VPs that were running both of them. So it's going to be the same information as before, where we had 10 LCs that were running OGE, OGT, 3 LCs that were focused on it, same amount of members, which is 68. However, the amount of LCs that were doing above 10 approvals for GE, and this was during the split, was 0, and the number of LCs doing above 10 realizations was 0 also. However, because it is a new product, all the LCs are going to grow. So even though there were 11 LCs that grew in approvals and 3 that grew in realizations, that still isn't like a lot, mainly because like we just started like this past year, so you're going to have natural growth in the product already. So we're looking at conversion rates. It's essentially, like I said, again, the same as it's going to be for GT, mainly because of, like I said, there was no split during that time, so I'm not going to go in depth with that. However, if we're looking at the MC Flywheels term, there is a higher conversion rate and compared to GT, if I remember correctly, in the processing time, as you can see, is a lot faster. So the acceptance processing time is 15 days and the approval processing time is 18 days. Even though it is faster, it is still relatively slow. In the Americas region, which is the region that we're in, the average processing time is around 10 days. And the like us as the United States take probably one of the longest times to process RDPs. So this is just an advice going into, if you are considering applying for this position, like what can you do to tackle this bottleneck that we have with Global Entrepreneur. When it comes to subproduct focus, majority of our EPs were approved to business opportunities, and the second majority of our EPs were approved to marketing opportunities. As you can see for GE, teaching in IT is not as desirable. However, like I said before, it's hard for us to make decisions or it's hard for us to make data-driven decisions because the product is so new. So like, for example, this is the first time we've ever had data for EPs that have been approved for opportunities this past year. So this is definitely subject to change in the upcoming years, but it also is something to notice is that more than half, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, I can't do math, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 90% of our EPs are interested in marketing and business for GE. So this is just something to look into also. We're looking at region interest. So it's kind of spread out across the board. This is the one thing that is interesting because a lot of, I think, LCVPs always assume that we work with the Americas for GE. However, this is not the case. So as you can see, the Americas region is about 15% in the EPs that we send abroad, mainly because the Americas timeline, like in regards to South America, does not, in Central America, sorry, does not necessarily fit with the United States like timeline when it comes to approvals, because we need our opportunities to be open like way earlier, and they start opening opportunities around March, and we need our opportunities to be open in January. So this is is a huge bottleneck that we have when it comes to GE, is that a lot of entities don't align with the timeline that we have for school. And especially since for GE, people tend to want their EPs to stay for at least a minimum of 3 months. So this is also something to look into. The majority of our matches did come from Europe. And if we're looking at our top entity partners that we had this past year, Egypt was our highest supply in opportunities because they do have their opens available so early. So this is a partnership that I'm currently working on as an MC member to ensure that we can figure out a way to keep this relationship sustainable. And we're also working with Greece, Argentina, and Austria. We have a seeder that is coming in from Greece next month, if I remember correctly, and she will also be helping with processing OGE EPs. So with the partners that we've had in the past, I'm still trying to figure out ways that we can strengthen them now, because we've had, obviously, EPs are interested in going to these areas. So, and if you look at MIA, there's 29% that were interested in, that went on exchange through MIA, and out of that 29%, 27% of them came from Egypt. So this is also something to look into for later. So yes. If we're looking at the GE timeline, this is relatively similar to the GV timeline because our EPs are, majority of them, I think 70% of them are third year and fourth year students in college. So it aligns a lot with those university timelines. So our applicant peak is from February till April. Our acceptance peak is from March till May. Approval peak is from March till May. Realization peak is from May till June, and our finish peak is July till August. So our EPs need to return back by August. So when it comes to creating entity partnerships, this is something that I send them with aligning with expectations, with when we need to have opportunities available. Because like I said before, a lot of entities don't start opening their opportunities till March on EXPA. However, our applicant peak starts in February. So this is something that to look into also. When it comes to the goals, so the goal for GE is 123, and so far we've had 7 approvals. The main reason why this number is so low is because as an MC, or even just me as myself and even the LCs, there was a bigger focus in GT during the winter peak, mainly because of the timeline that we have and just interest in EPs. So the focus, like obviously my focus is both GT and GE, but GE has more LCs running the product this upcoming year, and this upcoming like for summer peak. So I anticipate that we will be able to reach this goal, and if we don't, I'm going to be hella petty and really upset. But that's 123. I anticipate will be met. What we have as an MC or as an LC focus is doing an EYP focus, basically in comparison to GT, where we have a subproduct focus. For GE, like I said, similar to GV, we have an EYP focus. The main thing that I'm working on now is creating or making our own supply, and this is just me as an MC member working very heavily with our EYPs to make sure that, or to align with them to ensure that they are able to open their opportunities earlier, because like I said, a lot the opportunities don't align with our timeline, or with our US EP timeline. For GE, similar to like GT, I'm also posting opportunities on Handshake, which is the portal where I'm able to post opportunities and it gets sent to different universities around the nation. So I have yet to have an approval from them yet, but we also just started this strategy last month. So hopefully we start seeing results in the upcoming semester. And we also have an IXP campaign for GE, same as we do for GT and GV. If we're looking at the countries that I am focusing on for GE, it's going to be China, Malaysia, Austria, Greece, Argentina, and Egypt. I don't know why that's not on there. But these are the countries that I'll be focusing on, mainly because they have aligned, or they are trying to work with us to align with their timelines. But that's going to be the focuses that I have for winter peak. And then the current LCs that are running GE is Appalachian State, Michigan, Texas A&M, UGA, and Yale. So if you want to reach out to these LCs, feel free to do so. But these are the LCs that will be running the product this upcoming. So if we're looking at tiers over the years also, I don't think you guys need to know this, but I just put this here just in case. So if we're looking at tier 1 LCs, and I'll show you the tiers in the next slide. So if we're looking at Rise's term, which is 2015 to 2016, like I said before, there was not a split. So these were all the LCs that were in tier 1, which is about 26 LCs were in tier 1. If we're looking at tier 2 during Rise's term again, we had a total of 2 LCs that were in tier 2. And if we're looking at tier 3 LCs, during Rise's term, we had New York City, which had 40. So it was only 1 LC that was in tier 3. If we're looking at Flywheel's term, which was last year, this is when we had the split, and this is the top: Madison, Miami, Michigan, UGA, Georgia Tech, Colorado, and Austin were the LCs that were officially running GT and GE. And the LCs down below, which is DC, SLO, Dallas, Denver, Chapel Hill, Davis, etc., were the ones that were not running the product, but they just happened to have EPs that they processed to send on exchange. So these were the LCs that were in tier 1 last year. If we're looking at tier 2 for Flywheel, we had about 3 LCs that were in tier 2. With New York City having 18, Appalachian having 12, and Boston having 11. And then during Flywheel's term, we had no tier 3 LCs. So as you guys can see, there's been a big jump, not a big jump, but there's been relatively different numbers over the years when it comes to tiers. If we're looking at the tiers now, this is something in case if you guys do not know this is the exchange tier structure that we have. As an MC, we use this a lot when it comes to creating goals for our LCs. And like if we want them to jump tier based off of, you know, organizational health, we do it based off of the exchange tiers. But if we're looking at them right now, so for GE, these are where the LCs are at right now. And these are based off of approval. So all the LCs are in a tier 5 for GE, with Madison, Miami, and UGA having the top 3 closest to jumping tier. And then for GT, again, everyone is in tier 5 again, with New York City, Boston, Michigan, and Miami being the top contributors for the product. So again, like I said, these are numbers from February 1st to 30th of November. So these have definitely changed since like December and January, but this is something to look into whenever, if you're going to be projecting goals or whatever for your application, make sure that you're doing it based off the tiers that we have for the product. The key challenges that we have, I'm just going to tell you the main key challenges that I have for each product. For GT, the biggest key challenge that we have is supply. There's not enough supply in other entities to match with our EPs. That also affects like our conversion rate because we just don't have enough supply to give our EPs to apply for opportunities, especially when it comes to US EPs. I don't want to say entitled, but they have specific requirements that they want, especially when it comes to pay, when they start applying for opportunities. And those opportunities tend to be the most competitive to get. So there's like an expectation setting that isn't necessarily, that needs to be more defined on the local level with like who can, like which type of EP should be on a GT. And we don't have enough supply, like I said, to fill all these EPs requirements. This is mainly for business and marketing. When it comes to teaching, we have a lot easier not easier way, but we have a faster conversion rate when it comes to matching for those. But since majority of our EPs are also interested in business and marketing, then it's kind of harder to match them because it's such a high competition. Since globally it's hard to find opportunities for EPs. The biggest challenge for GE is aligning timelines, like I said before. This is also just basically with our entity partners, just ensuring that they're matching with our actual EP reality timeline, because US students tend by February or March, they already have their plans for the summer ready. So for us, it's more important that we start ensuring that even in like December or November, when we're having like conversations with our entity partners, that they are like projecting to like start opening opportunities available then, to make our timeline a lot easier. Like I said, this is very similar to GV. However, GV has already figured out like what works for them. And since GE is such a new product, they're still like, you know, working with startups and stuff to make that process a little bit easier or earlier to fit for us. So that's that. The biggest thing that we have in GT and GE is that this, for GE, it's like for both of them, they require innovation, honestly, because for GE, like I said, it's a new product. So a lot of the things that you do, you have to do it based off of not only data, but just like logically, like what you think is best. So you have to make a lot of decisions just based off of, I don't want to say hunches, but just what you generally think would be best for the product and for the LCs. And for GT, it's the same thing, even though, yes, it is the oldest product in ISEC, it is also the product that is changing the most, not changing the most, but it's like yeah, I'll say changing the most just for lack of a better word. And so then we have to be more innovative in the strategies that we have with running GT, because we can't keep on doing the same things that we've done for the past like 3 years, because the product is changing. Like I said, we don't have enough supply anymore to match for EPs. So what can we do differently to ensure that the EPs that we are getting are actually going to be able to be matched for an opportunity? So this is basically all I have for you guys for today. And yes. How do I stop this? Stop broadcast. Oh, I don't want to screen share anymore. Coño. Okay, do you guys have any questions? Preguntas? Anybody? Yeah. No questions? Anyone have questions for me? No? Eric, Renee, Mauricio? Oh, he left me. Okay.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you, girl. Ooh, you can
What?
I was like, y'all be quiet. Like, what's going on over here?
No, like I lost my voice, so it's like it's a struggle. But I don't have any questions. It was pretty like data heavy, so a lot of it made sense to me.
Thanks, girl. I'm a data heavy person. Okay. So, does anybody else have any more questions?
Me?
Huh?
Can you hear me? Can
Yeah,
you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was having like a problem, so I was, like, okay. So hi, my name is Mauricio. I'm from Isaac in Mexico. Actually, I'm Mauricio Sanchez too, so we have the same last name. Okay, so last year I was VP OGT in Mexico, and right now I'm VP IGT. So obviously, like the realities are pretty different, and we had like the same transition, like going with the split of the programs and stuff like that. But first I want to ask you, because at the beginning of the call I didn't have like a really good connection. Do all of the LCs did they like choose one program like this year, or is there any LC that is running both programs? Well, like products.
So they had to choose if they wanted to run GE or GT during our National President's Retreat, which happens, if I remember correctly, in November, or yeah, I'm pretty sure it happened in November. So they had to choose which one they wanted to run. We only have one LC that is running both products, and that is also because I only have one LC that is a GE-focused LC, and that is Isaac in Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
running one. Go ahead.
Yeah, the same happened in Mexico, but like there's, big committees, so a lot of the LCs, well, not a lot, but many of the LCs are running both, but that was like my question. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. I want to wish you guys the best of luck during this process. Be patient. That's like the only advice I have for you, because it's like a whole month, so it's very long. So just be patient and just give everything you got to the application. And I wish you guys the best of luck. And yeah, besos. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.